Hey guys, how's it going? Adam here from cvwritingexpert.co.uk. Thank you for joining me on this video. Now in this video, I'm going to give you the inside information that HR managers, internal recruiters and hiring managers do not want you to know so that you can ace that next phone interview. Coming up. Hey guys, welcome back, and in this video I'm going to give you the exclusive tips and hints that HR managers, hiring managers and internal recruiters do not want you to know. This is an industry exclusive, it's never been broadcast before, and this information is best kept industry secrets. So stick with me and I'm going to show you right now how to ace that interview. So without further ado, let's get into it. Telephone interviews. It's enough to make a lot of people sick, a lot of people feel nervous. The great thing first and foremost you need to remember is to ace that telephone interview. It's about three things: preparation, preparation and execution. Now before you even set up your telephone interview, you're going to want to do a few things. The great thing about a telephone interview is the person on the other end of the line can't see you. They can't see where you are, they can't see what you're doing. So it's best practice to get yourself a copy of your CV, a pen and pad, which is going to come handy a little bit later on, and some flashcards with some known questions and answers. So when you get asked a difficult or tricky question, you've got the answers right there in front of you. So don't panic, they can't see what you're actually doing. Now let's actually jump into the actual crux of the interview and how to ace the actual interview. Now for this demonstration period, we're going to be having our interviewer John. And John is going to work for ABC company. Now, through email exchanges, through LinkedIn exchanges, you've decided to interview at 2 p.m. So we've got John from ABC Company. He's going to interview you at 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m, the phone rings. What do you do? Well, the first thing I recommend that you do is to buy yourself a Bluetooth or wireless headset, which is going to give you more freedom of movement. It also allows you to walk around whilst interviewing and really generate a positive energy about yourself, which is really going to convey itself over the telephone. Remember, they can't see you in person, so they're going to be going on your tonality and your voice along with the associated energy. So to actually get into the structure of your interview, there's going to be some key checkpoints, flags as they will, that you need to absolutely cross and tick to make sure that you stand head and shoulders above the rest. And as I said, HR managers, internal recruiters, they don't want you to know this information, but I'm revealing it now to you. So I'm going to draw a line on the board, and we're going to pretend that this is the start and finish of your actual interview. We're going to put the start here, and we're going to put the finish at the end. Now this is from the moment John calls you to the moment you hang the phone up. Now as I said, there's going to be 4 key checkpoints that you need to tick off along this line to make sure that you ace the phone interview. The first one is right at the start, just after the start here, and it literally comes to this period here. John's going to call you at 2 p.m, you know your phone's going to ring, you know it's John that's on the line. Hi Adam, how are you? I'm very well, John. Yourself? Thank you very much. You're going to engage in some small chat, some chit chat. Now the way that you need to progress your interview forward is you need to take control of your interview. And you need to take control in a very subtle and soft way without John realising that you're the one in control. Now, if you just say, John, listen, I'm going to be in control, I'm taking control of this, you're going to absolutely burn your bridges, you're going to burn any chance of passing that interview. So how do you take control? 2 very quick tips on how you take control subtly. First, you have to set a time constraint. John's calling you at 2 o'clock. He's the one in power. He's the one phoning you. He's the interviewer. You're the one that wants the job with him. So John is the one in control. You need to take control with him by putting in a time constraint and then following up straight afterwards with the first question. So how do we do this? John's going to call you. You're going to make some small chat, chit chat, talk about the weather, talk about how things are currently going at the moment. You're going to break John's speech pattern by saying these words. John, thank you for calling me back at 2 o'clock. I really do appreciate your time. I've booked out the next 30 minutes to have this interview. Does 2:30 work for you? Very, very subtle. John will not see it, your interviewer will not actually see it coming. What you've done is you've taken John's time and you've put John into your time constraint of 2:30. Now it could be 45 minutes, it could be an hour. I recommend between 30 minutes and 45 minutes. Any bit longer than that, your energy is really going to start to drop. Again, break John's speech pattern. John, thank you for calling at 2 p.m. as promised. Really appreciate your time. I've actually booked 30 minutes off my lunch break at the moment. Does 2:30 work for you? Now, 9 times out of 10, the internal recruiter, HR manager, they're not going to see this coming. So they don't actually realise what you've subtly done. They're going to say, yeah, sure, 2:30 works, even if it doesn't. What you've done is you've then taken their frame, their position of power, and they're now working to your timetable. You're not working to theirs. So you're the one now in power. And what you then have to immediately do after you've set your time constraint is thank them and then ask the first question, because he who asks the first questions or asks the questions is the one in control. So to ask the first question is very simple. How, and emphasize the word how can I help? And you stay silent. And John will answer your question with a question. But you've asked the first question. You've set John a time constraint. I've booked until 2:30 to have this interview. I've booked 30 minutes out of my lunch. I can only talk for the next 30 minutes. Does that work for you? The second John says yes, he's in your frame. He's in your time constraint. And then you're going to ask with the follow-up with the first question, how can I help? That's the first part, and that is the first part of the psychology of taking control. Internal recruiters hate it, but they never see it coming because they don't realise very subtly what you've done. So you're going to ask the first crux throughout your interview. It's going to be just here after the start, just where this arrow here. This is the chit-chat section. This is the time constraint and where you have to set the first question. Now, as you go along the actual interview in which you're doing, there's going to be certain sections. So the first bulk is going to be you qualifying yourself and asking questions that John is actually asking you. So John will ask things such as, what are you doing at the moment? What's your current situation? Why do you want to work for us? Tell us a little bit about yourself, etc. And that's the time where you build rapport with John, your interviewer. And that is, again, where your flashcards, CV, and any other documentation such as sales records or record of achievement really do come in handy. Now, there might be some times during this questioning period that you get a bit flustered, that you lose your train of thought, or you need to buy yourself some critical seconds. And what I like to do is I like to use 2 questions, and I like to use the fact that you're talking on the telephone. First one, oh, I'm so sorry, John, the line went bad. Can you repeat the question, please? Now, John is subtly not going to know that you're actually asking for more time. He's going to think that the line did genuinely go bad. And he's going to ask the question again, which is when you then get your head in gear to then go through your flashcards, go through your CV or record of achievement to find the answer that you actually need. Again, that question, I'm so sorry, John, the line went bad there. Can you please repeat the question? The second question I like to ask is a general sales question, which is, how do you mean exactly? Now, it doesn't matter what question you're actually asked. How do you mean exactly is a question that's impossible to be answered. And again, doesn't matter in regards to what John's actually asking you. He can't fail yet to answer that question, and depending on how much he wants to elaborate, it's going to buy you those critical seconds to really get your head in gear and to smash that answer going back into John. So, we've started off our interview. You're building rapport, you've set your time constraint and you've asked the first question. You're now in control. Right, so you've gone through your qualification and rapport building period. John's then going to tell you a little bit about the company and a little bit about themselves in this part here. So this is the company qualification. You've now sort of halfway through the interview. When you've got to the part where John is now telling you about him and his company and how great the company is, you're now sort of at the halfway point. The next key part of what you need to do is towards the back end here. And this is going to be the time when John asks you if you have any questions in regards to the company or anything that you've heard. Now, this is, again, one of those key flag point moments that you have to absolutely nail to make sure you stand head and shoulders above everybody else. We recommend that you ask 3 questions. The first 2 are generic questions. So the generic question could be, for example, what systems do you use? What benefit packages there? Is there scope for flexible working? Will I have to work on this site or that? Just two very generic questions, because it's then going to set up the third question, which is the killer question for where you buy it again. You take control of the conversation. And on that third question, you want to ask something personal, work-related to John. Now, you've done your research. You found that John's worked for ABC Company for the last 5 years. A great third setup spike question, which is what we like to call it. We like to call it a spike question. Is you're going to want to ask something along the lines of, John, you've been with ABC for the last 5 years. What's been your greatest challenge thus far and how did you overcome it? This is going to stop your interviewer dead in their tracks and get them thinking. You're putting them on the back foot. Again, it's something related to them and their situation. John, you've been with the company for 5 years now. Congratulations. Very, very, very well done. What's your motivation? What makes you motivated to get out of bed and do the best every day for your company? You're getting your interviewer to think about them. The interviewers are so used to people asking the generic, how much will I get paid, and when do I start, and what benefits do I get, and is there a company holiday, that when you ask this spike question, it's like a sphere going straight through them, and you put them on the back foot and they think, wow, you know what, this person's actually articulate, this person actually wants to know about me. You're taking them out again, you're taking them out of that frame, you're taking them out of that realm. So again, just to reiterate the process from start to finish, you've got the start, which is where you're going to build your sort of chit-chat. First spike is you've got to set a time constraint and ask the first question. John, I've booked out the next 30 minutes to have this interview. Does that work for you? Or are you okay with that? As soon as they say yes, how can I help, John? You've taken control. You're then going to go to the rapport building stage where John's going to ask you either a competency-based or standardized question set, which is your turn to build rapport. When you start receiving company questions, you're about halfway through the process where John's going to actually tell you about his company, we're the leaders in that, we're working on this, we're working on that. Just past that process, there's going to be a time when John or your interviewer is going to ask you, have you got any questions? Yeah, I've got a few questions, John. First, what systems do you use? Is there scope for flexible working? Ask two generic questions and then set up the spike question. John, you've been here for the last 5 years. What motivates you to get out of bed and do the best that you can possibly do for this company? Or John, you've been here for 5 years. What's been your most enjoyable moment? What's been your greatest achievement? John, if you could change one thing in the company, what would it be? Get your interviewer to do the thinking for themselves, not for you. The last thing you want to do is just here before the finish, and this tip is really going to put you in the top 1% of interview applicants, particularly via telephone, and it's something that a lot of people lack to do. It's just before you finish here. There's another spike period, and what you want to set up is you want to set up what's called the follow-up period. And what you're basically going to do, if you've built enough synergy and enough rapport with John, and you both feel, and you actually do want to go forward in the process, don't do this if you feel that the company's not for you, because you're just wasting your time and you're wasting theirs. John, I've had such a great time on this interview. I've learned so much about your company. Do you mind if I follow up with a quick thank you a little bit later on? Now, there's no way if someone's going to give a free thank you away that anyone's going to turn around and say, nah, not for us. Again, set the follow-up just before the finish of the interview. John, I've learned so much about this company. I'm so excited to progress forward. I'd love to move forward. Would you mind if I dropped you a quick thank you in a couple of hours? There is no way they're going to say no. And this is exactly how the follow-up should be. So we're going to put follow-up. What you're going to do to follow up, 2 to 3 hours after your interview, you're going to send an email on an Outlook. You're not going to send a LinkedIn, you're not going to send a WhatsApp, you're not going to send an instant message. It has to be an Outlook message. Now, a lot of internal recruiters and hiring managers are stuck on their email like butter on bread. So the thing they're going to be looking at 90% of their time is their email inbox, rather than their LinkedIn or other social status. So if you send that thank you message, very clear. Hi John, Adam here. Just want to thank you again for giving me such a great interview. I'm so looking forward to move forward in the process. I learned so much about the company. I look forward to catching up. Regards, Adam. and you send that to their email inbox 2 to 3 hours after you've had your interview. Now what's going to happen is throughout the day, because it's going to take a couple of days for John to make a decision to shortlist, he's going to see your name with the word thank you in the subject title every time he logs onto his emails. So who's he going to remember? You or the person he just hung the phone up on when he's making 10, 15, 20 phone calls in that particular round. So again, to reiterate our lessons learnt, you need to take control of the conversation by setting a time constraint and asking the first question. You then need to build the rapport by answering the questions by using 2 stalling questions of your own should you feel stuck. When it comes to the point where John's asking you or giving you information about the company in this section here, you're about halfway, you're about 50%, so you've made it over the hardest part of the interview. The second checkpoint that you need to do is you need to ask 3 questions. 2 are generic, system-based, work-based, something that's actually on your mind, with the third one being a spike question related to the interviewer, him or herself, to really just make them, put them on the back foot and get them thinking about what they're doing. Just before the finish, you want to put in the follow-up. The follow-up has to be 2 to 3 hours after on the same day, and it has to be via Outlook. No other social media outlet will do. If you follow these checkpoints, as I said, this is internal reference that HR managers are taught. They don't want you, the interviewee, taking control of the interview. They don't particularly want you following up because they feel it's going to give an unfair advantage to you over somebody else. We're revealing the secrets. As I said, it's the first time this has been publicly broadcast. And this is the inside knowledge and a model of how this actually works. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've taken some actual actionable tips. If you're having a telephone interview or you want to discuss, please drop us a comment below. We will get in touch with yourself with any queries that you have. Hope you've enjoyed this video. As I said, we're going to be releasing some more interview video series coming soon as well. Take care. Thank you for taking the time. And obviously check us out on www.cvwritingexpert.co.uk. Look forward to catching up. Take care.